if the only note that you're getting is we need more creative, that's a non-starter. Okay, what do you want? You need to come with specifics as far as what kind of creative, and don't tell me to slap a post-it note on something. Like we need an actionable punch list of exactly what kind of creative you want. If we have in-house creators, we can have them do that on the video side. We benefit from the fact that we are in the Los Angeles area. We have a huge pool of aspiring actors, comedians, sketch improv writers that are looking for steady employment. So we know that we have the resources at our disposal to create video creative that could work. As far as setting reasonable expectations and making sure goals are aligned, I think that it is incumbent on both the brand and the agency to be brutally honest with each other from the outset about what your goals are, what your expectations are, what you are each willing to bring to the table. Like if you say to us to get us to sign a contract that you are going to do the creative generation, you need to do the creative generation. Don't walk that back 2 months down the line, and then we have to, stay up at all hours shooting photos of our products. Like, be very specific about what you need from the brand. The brand needs to be very specific and then consistent, because I feel like there's a lot of goalpost shifting on both sides a lot of the time that is detrimental to the relationship and detrimental to the account performance. I agree with Jenny Lynn about, like, one of the things that's so valuable about forums like Foxwell Founders or e-commerce Fuel is that it's private. It does have like a membership threshold that you have to hit as far as like revenue, or how many years you've been in business, or what your sales channel mix or your acquisition mix is, to basically vet the people, because you get unvarnished honesty in more of this intimate forum than you do on Twitter, when anyone can say anything and you're limited to 256 characters. There's just I think that a natural byproduct of that is going to be a lot of flexing and cherry picking of case studies. I think that also there is a tendency, we do it as brand owners, where, Jenny Lynn, as you were saying, you find the thing that's working and you try to double down on it and iterate on the thing that's working the best, so you can provide more of what your customer base wants, but maybe with a slight twist. I think that there is that tendency in terms of the services provided by agencies and the process they bring to each different brand. And the reality is, having even if it's like a really sound process around creative strategy, media buying, data analysis, all that stuff, it does kind of redound to this one-size-fits-all mentality. And the truth is that there are so many brands selling so many different kinds of products that mentality is not going to play most of the time. And so I think that when agencies do audits on prospective new brands to work with, when they're doing the audit, they need to be honest. Like, if they don't think that there's a way for them to help, they need to say, I don't think there's a way for me to help, rather than playing out the string for 1, 2, 3, 6 months with not much to show for it, other than, you put some ads out there and people are more aware of your brand, but that awareness isn't paying the bills. I'm sorry. Like, I know brand marketers hate hearing this, but I think that performance ad creative done well can be brand ad creative. Like, you can convey the vibe and the sensibility and the products of a brand in performance creative just fine. You don't need to have these like super high gloss like Harmon Brothers produced videos to make people aware of your brand. If I'm talking to a media buyer or creative strategist and they even bring up reach campaigns or awareness campaigns, I end the call as quickly as possible, because that's a non-starter. It's a terrible waste of money. And I get it that if you're Nissan, if you're Coca-Cola, If you are, Levi's or Wendy's or something like that, sure, you want to stay top of mind and remind people that the Baconator exists, whatever. If you're in particularly like our position at Boardwalk, we are not a demand capture brand at all. Like, we are not running a bunch of Google PPC stuff. Like, people buy our products because they were like, I didn't know that this even existed, but now that I see it, I need it. And that's why paid social has been such a huge lever for us in a way that Google PPC has not. I think that also the other thing that we hear a lot is, well, have you thought about doing a subscription box? That would work great for Snarky Tees. Less so for a brand where 50% of our revenue is generated from selling size products. People's body shapes and weights change all the time. It sounds like a huge pain in the ass. I don't want to get involved with that. And as far as the hardline goods that are not sized, they take longer to develop and to get produced. And I don't think we'd have enough newness to put in front of people on a monthly basis. So like, you have to kind of meet the clients where they're at as a brand. Like, what's the product mix look like? What does their customer base look like? Is this a kind of brand where they would benefit from having more robust PPC presence relative to what they're doing on paid social? Or are they like Boardwalk, where PPC is like 1% of their ad spend and the rest of it's all paid social, whether it's on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever. I just think that, I even see this in Foxwell Founders. Sometimes I'll peek into the agency building channel just to see what they're talking about. And I've seen several times that client communications is like one of their biggest struggles, like how to communicate with brands, especially if things aren't going well. And I get it. I don't envy anyone that we hire on a media buying side, because I don't, Jalen, like you, we ran our own ads for several years. And I totally get what you mean about like, you're this close to like the ad platform, all that stuff. You see how it's reacting on a day-to-day basis. So I get that. Yeah, sometimes Meta just fucking sucks and there's nothing anyone can do about it. And so I try to be privy to that. I still do follow certain media buyers that I trust on Twitter, just so I can keep my fingers on the pulse of what's going on. Because one nice thing about having delegated this earlier this year is that I'm not an ads manager on a daily basis. I am in there a few times a week because I want to see what the ad platform is saying, not just what Triple Whale is saying, or whatever, if someone's using Northbeam or something else. Like, I'm trying to kind of read the tea leaves from multiple different data sources. But I just think that a big part of the schism between brands and agencies is this kind of almost reflexive belief on the brand side. They just want to burn through our money and they don't care about our bottom line. And then brands are just, and then agencies are like, well, they just don't understand what it is that we're trying to do.
Yeah.
That's on them for not explaining it. But also at the same time, like, they can't approach small brands that are entirely bootstrapped with the same mentality that they do large legacy corporations that have basically a set annual budget and they are expected to spend all of that. Yeah. Like, we tell people, the budget, the sky's the limit as far as the budget, as long as it's profitable. You need to be first order profitable. And a lot of them turn green when I say that, which is fine. I'll just keep talking to people until I find someone that can stomach that. But a lot of them can't. And I understand it, but at the same time, I'm not going to bet my business on the spec that this one that talks a good game, but is mostly like, we need to gather more data. We need to gather more data. At some point, you have to stop cultivating data and start harvesting.
Yeah,
that's why we have such a quick leash as far as like killing ad creative, because with our stuff, especially because that's the other thing they need to consider about each individual brand. What is the average consideration period between first touch and when the person converts? If you're selling pool supplies, people need to see your creative a lot longer. It's probably going to take longer for them to convert. A graphic tee that is selling for $32, it's much more impulse friendly. So don't tell us that the payback window is like 2 months out. No, I'm sorry, it's not. If it's an impulse product, or if it's something that kind of scratches an emotional itch, I shouldn't need to wait 90 to 180 days.
Yeah. You raise a couple of interesting points, Matt. One is, this concept of like, it's always the case study that starts the conversation, right? Here's the case study. Here's the performance we got for this particular no name organization, right? Who knows what it is?
Mm-hmm.
And a case study isn't a system, right? A case study is a set of results that may have come from who knows what, everything from luck to a system that we're not exposed to.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that opportunity for an agency to say, here is our methodology, here's our thesis for how we go about approaching this problem. And this is what we expect the outcome to look like. And here are the ways that we measure whether or not we're on or off course. I think is some really good feedback. The other thing too, and I think this is interesting, and as you look at agencies across a very wide spectrum of different types of accounts, that specialist to say like, I get first order profitability, and I get bootstrap, and I get small company, and I'm taking this off your plate maybe for the first time. That organization needs to be handled probably by a different type of organization, differently than somebody like Coca-Cola, right? Where it's like, look, I don't care. Like, just make sure that this budget goes to zero by the end of the year. That's all I care about, right? So,
right.
You raise a good opportunity there, which is to look back at your agency experience or your preferences, even as an individual operator, and say, I like working with big brands. I like working with little brands. I like working with little brands because I know how to get them from 0 to 1, or whatever the case may be. So that's a great point. Jenny Lynn, I'm curious on your side from the additional services. Like, I know you haven't gone the agency route, but is there a set of services or something that agencies could be doing better or offering that would cause you to say, you know what, I'm willing now to give this up?
So that's exactly what I thought about instead. I was like, what would it be? Because I don't know how to exactly like express this, but like that whole thing of like, we are giving it to you because we don't know how to do it. Like, that's why we gave it to you. Like, we need help. Like, if you're going to an agency, you're basically saying, like, we can't get it to work the way we want to because of time, resources, whatever. That's why we gave it to you. I know how to go in there and upload things and click buttons. And like, as we get into like, hey, Broad's killing it. Like, interests have gone away. This thing is getting easier and easier and easier for a single person to go in and launch an ad set and have it run. My cousin just started a kids clothing line with her girlfriend, and I met her at a Chick-fil-A and set up her ad account in an hour and a half and showed them how to do it. And I was like, just click Broad, don't exclude anybody, and like, let her rip. Like, you girls need to be giving something good because you don't have any reviews on your website. But like, there was two things going on when I did that. One, wow, like, here you go. And she was like, okay. And then they put an ad in there. Like, that's how easy that was. If somebody's coming to you and say, we can't get this to work, it's not because they don't know how to upload the video. Now, that part is hard. Setting up the account was a pain in the ass. But like, that's the thing with agencies is they're like, well, we need you to make the No. We don't know how to. We need the agency that just used to be the manual button pusher, that's not a thing anymore. And if people are still expecting that to be a thing, it's very unrealistic, right? On the agency side. But the same thing is true for brands. And this is where I fight back and I push back on brands who are expecting agencies to be magical and come in and solve all their issues. Because yeah, creative is so important, but so is what you're offering your customer on that first purchase. Because and I am such like an evangelist for this, but like, you have to have a good offer. It's so hard to buy things on the internet, and there's so many different things. Like, you have to make it so exciting for someone to buy from you, right? Like, and you can do that through like, my products are like, your products are so funny, Matt. By the way, I know you guys and I love your stuff. I love the t-shirt. You have one right now, as a matter of fact. But like, it has to be that thing, and you have to be positioning that thing in a way that makes it so tantalizing for someone to buy it. And the agency can't do those two things for you, right? They're not developing products for you. So that's one thing where they can't work magic. If it's not working, there are other conversations that have to be had. And that's where an agency, to me, is lacking, right? They need to have that honest conversation with the brand. If they're doing everything in their power for real, if they're like, I'm making all this stuff for you, I'm doing all this. The reason you're not succeeding is insert the answer. It's not, you're not giving me enough creative. You're not doing this. There's a deeper rooted issue here. What is it? It's not that simple. Like, oh, we needed one with a green background. No. That's not the problem. And so I do defend agencies in that way, that like, I have seen brands that are like, yeah, like they can't make anything work. And it's like, well, there is this dance that has to happen where things are getting stirred up. Both people are leaning into what they're really good at, and brands are giving a little and agencies are giving little. And when there's no trust, nobody's willing to give. So it's like really hard to make these relationships work. And you come in with like this bad taste in your mouth from all these bad experiences, and you're just like, fuck it. Like, here, do it. Either make it work or I'm going to fire you. And that's it. Like, I'm not even willing to do this with people anymore. So I think it's like, the nature of it's really difficult. And when I'm in this group and I'm reading people's things about like what they're having issues with, I feel for them, because I can see some people being like, no, you need to make this work. Like, and them being like, I don't know what else I can do for this person. So anyway, all that to say, what are the other things that these agencies can be doing? One, being really honest about what they think the issue is, because I know that they're thinking something, right? Like if something's not working, they're like, they'll say it in here, like, what else does this person want me to do? Like, I can't like make magic happen. I can't pull rainbows out of my ass. Like, that's not going to happen. And it's like, okay, well then tell them what you think really needs to happen. Even if it's outside of your wheelhouse. Like, hey, I think you need to have a better offer. Like, why are agencies so unwilling to tell people that? Or why are brands so unwilling to listen to it? That's the main thing that I think is a big issue, is like, let's talk more about the offers that we have and less about the color of the background, for the love of all that is holy, because it's not going to change that much. Like the conversations about text overlays and we're putting it this way versus this way. Like, no, we need to get deeper. We need to have deeper conversations about the strategy of the brand. What's your strategy? What can we make work? What is the value of giving them a second t-shirt for 50% off? That's going to cost us $7. If it takes $10 off our CPM, we're net positive here. Like there's like conversations around offers that I think people drag their feet on or something. And maybe you think, well, other people aren't doing it. Yeah, well, North Face doesn't have to. You know what I mean? I have to. Nobody knows who I am. I have to get out there and say like, we believe in our products. So we're giving you something free on the first purchase. And I'm like I said, an evangelist for that. And people are like, well, I don't want to give away something for free. Maybe you have to, maybe you should try. Like just try. There's got to be a little bit more experimentation on offers. That's my number one thing with agencies. Like we should be talking more about what the offer is and seeing the math behind it. And I know they're going to be like, well, that's not our job. Well, it has to be now. We don't need you to like figure these other things out. We need you to help us. Like you're a salesperson, you're a marketing mind. Like what is it that's going to make this so easy for somebody to purchase? Mm-hmm. And then the other big thing that I think needs to be the new way of agencies is if you're a Facebook only agency or you're a Google only agency, like there was nothing scarier than iOS 14.5. Like literally that was so fucking scary. And like, it keeps me up at night. I think about it all the time. So where are the agencies that are coming in like, hey, Jenny Lynn, yeah, you spend 99% of your ad spend on Facebook ads. Like, babe, you can't do that. Like, you got to be trying SEO, even if it's not super profitable. What can you contribute into an SEO program that's going to at least put another leg on the table? What about Google Ads? What about YouTube? Like, where are these diversification agencies that are coming in and telling me how to diversify what I'm doing and not just giving up? Like, it's like, oh, we couldn't get TikTok to spend profitably. It's like, okay, well, are we spending anything there? Like, how long is it going to take me to get profitable on one of these platforms? Like, just teach me about it. Teach me why it's important to diversify. Let's talk about that. Even like, from the perspective of like, hey, have you ever tried to advertise to other businesses? Like, what's your wholesale program like? Like, because that's diversification too, right? So like when I think about what keeps me up at night, it's how do I get people to convert on that first order? Like, what is it that I need in a D2C world where your Facebook's flooded with ads that's going to make somebody purchase beyond like, man, this is like cool, right? Like, what is it that makes it so good that they can't not buy it, right? They should be more involved in that conversation. That's a big thing. And then the second thing is like, where am I putting this offer? What's the best way to have this conversation on YouTube? Now that I found a winning offer, how do I put it on all these other platforms? Like, that's the biggest thing for me in the future is like, are these agencies going to be able to help us with these offers? And are they going to be able to help us diversify our businesses? Because that's really, like, as a brand owner, if you go through our brand feed, like I even went through, I think I wrote down diversification, and then when things start working, how do I not break the rest of my business? So like scenario planning. Like if you're an agency and you're not sitting there and going, listen, if we add 20% more budget, you're going to sell 20% more of these. Are you ready for that? Like, here's what that looks like over 3 months. Okay. And then our plan is to increase it another 20. Can you get that inventory level? Like, what if we negative? Like, what does that scenario planning look for, like, for you financially as a business? Make sure you're prepared for those things. You know, there's like these other things that they can be doing besides like, here, give us more creative, we're going to put it into the machine, that could really diversify their own offerings and make them more valuable to us as brands, because it's what keeps us up at night. And who is there to help us with these problems? Like, we pigeonhole people. Like, this is my Facebook guy, this is my SEO guy. Like, where's the guy that can help me diversify and has his own guys? Where's their network? You know what I mean? So really, like, that's what I think about when I thought about this question. What other things can people do? This is it.